Hello, everybody. Welcome to another podcast. I am barely surviving sheltering in place because I desperately want to go outside and do things like eat all you can eat Korean barbecue, but alas, that is not the case. That's why we're doing podcasts. So, with me today, I have two people who are part of the medical system. We're going to be talking about how they are experiencing COVID-19 from their perspectives. I will have them introduce themselves. I'll start with ladies first.
Hi, my name is Jelanie. I'm currently working at Santa Clara Medical Center, San Jose. And I currently work the night shift on the med surg unit. It's currently called the COVID unit at our hospital. I am currently attending the Cornerstone San Jose, and I am the media team lead there, as well as the service operations and leading the youth group called The Forge.
All right, thank you, Jelani. And I'll turn it over to my bro over here. Go ahead, Julius.
Hey everybody, I am Julius. I currently go to Calvary Chapel, San Jose. I am just an attendee. Actually, I'm not attending physically anymore because, well, we have drive-through church nowadays, but that's a whole different thing. I am a administrator for a residential care facility, which is basically a residential home that is converted to house the developmentally disabled.
All right, and first off, just want to say thank you again for coming to the podcast and for sharing your experiences with your perspectives on COVID-19, especially for anyone who's frontline. I do appreciate all you're doing because Lord knows I would not be able to do that while keeping a straight mental state. We'll go ahead and we'll look at the verse that's going to overarch our whole conversation. All right, Matthew 14, verses 13 to 14. As soon as Jesus heard the news, he left in a boat to a remote area to be alone, but the crowds heard where he was headed and followed on foot from many towns. Jesus saw the huge crowd, and he stepped from the boat, and he had compassion on them and healed their sick. Since we are talking about the medical system, I found that to be appropriate since Jesus had this compassion to heal everybody that was hurt or sick. So let's go ahead and go into this. Question number one: how has COVID-19 affected the work environment you're involved in? Either of you can start first.
All right, I go first. So I briefly mentioned earlier that I work on the med surg unit that recently converted to the COVID unit. So before COVID, we were a 52-bed med surg unit. After the whole COVID happened, we actually converted to a 16-bed because COVID is actually an airborne isolation. Well, they consider it airborne droplet precaution, but because Santa Clara County, they want us to be isolated. They are in the room where it's a droplet airborne isolation as well as contact isolation. So it's with the N95 mask, with a face shield, with your gown, gloves, and your shoe covers. Before COVID, our acuity, meaning how many patients we can take in one nurse, we were 1 to 5. So one nurse every 5 patients. Because of COVID, we are now a 1 to 1 or 1 to 2. You see how very significant that is in care, because each time when you go into the room and you're gowning up, it's a lot of work. And you can't take care of 5 patients if you're gowning in and gowning out, and the ones that you're taking care of, they're not all COVID, so that's also exposing them to the disease. A lot of my coworkers were very very traumatized actually when they found out the news. We had the most airborne rooms in our hospital on that unit, so we were probably the only ones that could handle that surge. In the beginning, a lot of people had a lot of anxiety. A lot of my coworkers had anxiety, but after a while, you get really immune to it, and you learn to really take care of your patients.
I have a couple follow-up questions with what you just told me there. It sounds like you're only taking care of one patient per time you're working per shift. When you go back, are you tending to the same person or do you guys rotate?
They like to keep the same patient, like assignment. However, that's not always the case. We're there for like maybe a week or two, and then we rotate 2 weeks out, and then we go to the other unit where it's just a regular med surg unit for less exposure.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you so much. All right, Julius, how about on your end?
So, a little background about the facilities that we have, they're for developmentally disabled, so people who have cerebral palsy, autism, Down syndrome. You're looking at people who could be medically fragile. Prior to March 13th, right before, they called the shelter in place, me and my family, we decided to lock the houses down because we started seeing a surge in the news, at least. After, it was official, normally what happens with our care homes during the week, like Monday through Friday, our population would go to a day program. And a day program is basically like a daycare for developmentally disabled from like 9 to 2. And then they return to us after that, for the rest of the day. Now they don't do that. So all the people that are in the home, they're like basically encapsulated. None of their doctor's appointments, like psychiatric appointments, are done in person. It's all done by telephone. They can't see their family. We are regulated by community care licensing and regional center, and they've done their inspections since then on our facilities, all via FaceTime and Zoom. So we're pretty much in a bubble. Their lives have changed drastically, and ours as well, but them more so.
Oh, that's crazy. How are the people that you're taking care of in the facilities coping with this now? Like for me, I at least have the luxury to go get lunch and see sunlight for like 10, 15, 20 minutes and just then go back in. How are the people you taking care of handling this?
So originally, I thought that they would freak out because some of them have a developmental age of like between like 2 to about 10 years old, but they're adults. So their comprehension of what's happening isn't as good as us. Originally, I thought they were going to freak out and like have a lot of behaviors and start hitting each other and getting mad a lot because they can't go out. But it's so strange. It's so strange to me. They're not having behaviors. They're just like they're being extremely docile.
Interesting.
If I would say anything, to some degree, because of this, it's making my job much easier. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to bring most of them to doctors and stuff.
Thanks for sharing that, Julius. Let me ask a quick follow-up question. Has there been an experience at your workplace that has been like a wow, this is happening moment because of COVID-19?
Yeah, sure. Of course, I can't name names. One of our consumers 2 or 3 weeks ago, he had a cough during the day, and he was like vomiting a lot. About like one, we called over, the ambulance, and the EMTs didn't want to take him to because our policy is because they're developmentally disabled, we don't want them to wait in the waiting rooms of VMC or anything because they don't understand what it means to wait. We called over the EMTs and they refused to bring him to the hospital. Their suggestion was just for him to see his primary care physician when it's possible. But it turns out, like 5 a.m., our caregivers went to go rise him up and wake him up, and he was unresponsive. When the EMTs came, they did CPR for like an hour, and then they pronounced him dead.
Wow, that's intense. Thanks for sharing that, Julius. Anything at your side, Jelani?
Yes, probably early January or February when we started hearing the news about coronavirus hitting the United States. We were basically trying to tell ourselves like it's a matter of time when it's going to hit us. Rapidly happening from China and all over the world. And as soon as it spread to the United States, it was just a matter of time when it was going to hit Bay Area. During that time, back in January, February, nothing was really implemented in our hospital system. They just gave us questionnaires of to screen the patients. If we traveled within the last 14 days. As soon as we got a few patients under investigation, we call them PUIs. They started implementing a ton of protocols, a ton of regulations, a ton of procedures. And I got to tell you, every time I would come into work, I think there would be a new change, and I wouldn't keep up with like what are the new rules, what are the new testing things. I couldn't keep up. So each day I would have to expect that anything can happen, anything can change, and whatever you have heard 2 hours ago or 5 hours ago is not going to be applicable to 8 hours from now. It was just keeping updated in our hospital system, and it just happened so rapidly. So yeah.
Well, you're saying like every 2 hours or something drastically changed.
My main manager of the unit would email like at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, "This is the new rules of what we need to do." So what we had learned like about like 4 hours ago doesn't apply anymore. It was like, our assistant manager saying, keep up your emails because that's when you get all the updated information of what we're implementing in the hospital system. So during that time, like, you can see how stressful that was. There's high anxiety in that moment, and then being, informed in a timely basis, especially I work night shift. I'm not there during the day, so I don't see my boss physically face to face, but by communication through email. So if you're not reading your email or not seeing your assistant nurse manager, you can easily miss what you're supposed to be doing or what you're supposed to know, and having to take care of your patients, because there are many times where they were telling us to wear shoe covers, and another time they were telling us not to wear it because that could be transmitted easily. And it's just all these like little things that you hear, and it's every day you're like, what? I just read that like you could wear it but now you can't.
I'm assuming that's still happening now.
Hmm. Very much so, as we speak.
Well, I would be stressed out about that. In my line of work, in regards to technology, when there's something in place that's broken or something that I need to work around, the communication is fairly quick. But usually I don't have to send something every 2 hours to something that's being adjusted. That's crazy. I'm so sorry, Jelani. That's a lot of active adapting
Hmm.
in that
You
account.
have to be flexible in where you work, so that's where it is, training ground.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's ask this question. This is more, a little more personal. How are you and your family coping with your work situation?
When COVID hit our hospital, I have to be honest, I did not tell my family right away that I actually, until this day, to be honest, they don't know that I work in a COVID unit. For one thing, there's the main reason why is because my mom is the most worrier and very concerned parent. So the moment I would tell her something like this, she would freak out. I honestly haven't told them that I work in that kind of environment. So it's kind of easy because, ignorance is bliss. They're taking extra precaution. I take extra precaution actually, without even telling them. I think when it first hit us in our hospital, and no research was done yet, or no information was really solid yet at that time, I was taking care of one of our very first COVID positive patients in my hospital. I actually got picked to be the first one, and sometimes I wonder why God. I took that assignment as I had to. That it was kind of like a divine thing that God had to like put in my life. Even before COVID, to be honest, I already take extra precaution by changing, not even wearing scrubs inside the house. And actually, before COVID, I actually don't wear the same shoes. Like, I actually change my shoes before I get into my car. I hand sanitize everything. I just did extra precaution. And initially, when COVID hit, I had to isolate myself for a bit from my family because I wasn't sure if I was infected myself. Even though I was asymptomatic, had no symptoms, I kind of isolated myself in the room just to be safe and not wanting to affect my family. So the story is that I live with my mother, who's like in her 60s. So she's a bit older, and I have a younger brother. He's also working, so I did not want him to catch anything from me if he were to go to work or anything like that. Even until this day, I still have my little tendencies of like, okay, I'm just gonna keep away from you, even though I'm fine.
That's pretty intense. That's very similar actually to a friend of mine. In her situation, as soon as she gets home, she immediately like runs to the shower before seeing anyone. And then after she's done with
Hmm.
shower, she keeps herself separated. They have a tri-level, so there's a room in the bottom and the parents are in the upper. So she keeps herself mostly in the bottom level ever since COVID-19 has been a thing in her work environment. Yeah, she's like high level stress too. It's affecting her ministry. It's affecting how she's handling things. It was very hard for me to find someone who's frontline medical to share because a lot of them are really shy to share about it. And it takes a lot to share this out. So I thank you, Jelani, for being vulnerable about it. Julius, how about
I,
on your end?
I have a kid, so you know, after after schools closed, that changed my work-life balance a lot. All of a sudden, I'm doing homeschooling and stuff. It's just, it's crazy, dog. Be at the care home too. I'm needed there because of staffing. Instead of having a 5-hour break for our caregivers, I now have to be there more often. And then, on top of that, my wife is a LVN at a skilled nursing facility. So, like we're pretty much, a part of the medical field, but I'm like kind of like on the outskirts of it. But yeah, I mean, home life, it's not that bad. I mean, we're employed, so I'm sure there's people out there who have it worse, who don't have a job. I have a lot of friends who don't have jobs right now, and so I feel blessed to still be working.
Has the dynamics between you and your wife changed since COVID-19? Like being sensitive about if she gets sick or if you get sick?
No, not really. She doesn't have an outbreak at her work right now. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. There was a bug going around earlier in the winter, and I'm not sure if that was the flu or whatever, COVID-19, or that it's so indiscriminate. But she's been tested and she's negative, so I'm pretty sure we are as well. And I think eventually I feel like eventually all the people in the care homes and the caregivers will have to get tested as well. I wonder how my population would deal with that, with the current tests that they're having, because from what my wife Fritzy said, it's a swab up the nose for like 40 seconds, and I don't think they would like that.
I wouldn't like that
uh,
as all either, but I can't even imagine
yeah.
how someone with the mental mentality between a 2 to 10-year old is gonna be handling that without like
Yeah,
lots of assistance.
for reals. Some of them don't even want us to brush their teeth. And my wife said when they did it to her, she felt like her eyeballs were like moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, not not interested.
All right. All right. Thank you both for sharing. Yeah. I don't get this kind of experience from my line of work, so it's good that you're sharing, and I hopefully this will benefit a lot of people to just understand what's going on. Hearing the actual practical side and seeing what's actually happening in the front lines matters to me because it gives me a better perspective. So hearing what you guys are telling me should humanize what this looks like a little bit more than what is being sensationalized on media right now. Hopefully this is what people are going to hear in this podcast. I really hope this helps them understand that stuff. Okay. All right. Thank you. What is one thing you wish people outside of the medical system would know from the COVID-19 situation?
I think with mine has to do in regards with the shelter in place for right now. I know that's such a controversial issue, especially with the media right now. It's just that I see it on the front lines what COVID-19 does to people, and it's a really serious disease. It's a really serious virus, and there are some people who are just so against it because they want their freedom, that they want to do what they want to do. But I want to bring up a verse in Romans 13. It had to do with authority. I want to read it to you guys actually. Everyone must submit to the governing authorities, for all authority comes from God, and those in positions of authority have been placed there by God. So anyone who rebels against authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and they will be punished. For the authorities do not strike fear in people who are doing right, but in those who are doing wrong. Would you like to live without fear of the authorities? Do what is right, and they will honor you. The authorities are God's servants sent for your good. But if you're doing wrong, of course you should be afraid, for they have the power to punish you. They are God's servants sent for the very purpose of punishing those who do what is wrong. So you must submit to them not only to avoid punishment, but also keep a clear conscience. This is like in regards to just people say like, keep shelter in place to kind of protect people, to protect yourself. Because there are some people who are against wearing a mask. My thing is just to really take this virus really seriously, because it's not just for your own sake, but for your families. It might not affect you immediately, but there are like, grandmothers and grandfathers who could be affected by it so easily, who are susceptible to it. So that's just my only thing.
All right, thank you, Jelanie. How about you, Julius?
For the most part, me and my family have been, and the care homes, we've been doing the sheltering in place because we're like bubbles, pretty much. And we're, obviously we're not eating out, and I'm an avid martial artist, and I haven't been training martial arts. Obviously, some of the things that you do in martial arts is, it's like the worst thing for COVID-19. Like I'm a jujitsu practitioner. This is one of the worst things to do during this time. Do your best to shelter in place. I think hygiene is super important even before this. So, like I was saying before, I'm a jiu-jitsu practitioner. So I always take precaution to viruses, and when you wrestle, there's a thing called ringworm or staph infections. I don't want to get that. So I'm like super clean. I'm always washing my hands. I wash my face. I try to keep, clean clothes on after I, return to the home. Hygiene is super important. And if you don't need to get super close to somebody, don't do it. And I understand why some people want to lift shelter in place because they're tired of the way it is and they want to go back to work. I would say to those people, hey, maybe it's time to pivot. Maybe it's time to, find a different income stream. Because if I was in that situation, I would. I'm just, blessed that I'm in the place I am. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying to people outside the medical system. Stay clean, people. Avoid contact. Don't touch surfaces and then put food in your mouth.
That's a thing, actually. Anyhow.
By the way, what do you guys think is going to happen to buffet places after this?
Oh, dude. Sweet Tomatoes closed.
Yeah.
Right?
There's going to be so many different regulations. If a buffet is going to figure out how to do it, it's like they have to find a way to isolate every single piece of food in their place. Unless it's all you can eat where they serve it to you, that's different. But
Yeah,
if you stand up and go to the food, it's not gonna happen.
yeah, for reals.
It's gonna be like, yeah, I miss sweet tomatoes already. I loved sweet tomatoes. Thank you both for sharing. So number one, treat this seriously from Jelani. Number two, be clean. Be be consistent with your physical hygiene, like Julius is saying. So, okay, really practical, really makes sense, understand. And thank you, Jelani, for putting in that verse. That is a good perspective to have. So I have some questions through social media and just asking people so I could get some fresh ideas apart from me. And I have a couple of them. The first one, both of you can answer this. How well equipped do you think the Bay Area is to like handle those affected with COVID-19? I'll start with Jelani because you are definitely frontline. You probably see this more than anyone else.
With the advanced technology with or increase of testing centers now, I think we're really well equipped. And also with the hospital system, Santa Clara Convention Center, they temporarily set up like a fake hospital there just in case we had a surge, but they recently tore it down. Our hospital system, we are well equipped as well because not only my unit can handle taking COVID patient units, we also have 3 other med-surg units with airborne room isolation compatibilities that can take COVID-19 patients. Just the increase of just the testing as well, and knowing that if you have COVID or you have the symptoms of it, it's easy to get tested now. I recently got tested at my work, so it's very convenient and very easy. You have symptoms or anything like that, don't wait. If you're fearful of going to the emergency room, don't. Because I know for my emergency room in the ER, they triage them, meaning they separate the ones that are suspected symptoms or the ones that don't. So they're taking extra precaution on that. So I believe that Bay Area is coming to that part where they're going to be well equipped, but I know that we do have the most cases just in our Bay Area alone. That's going to take time, but we are heading in the right direction of being prepared and in case something were to happen.
All right, thanks for sharing that, Jelani. Hopefully, that gives people some comfort to know that the system we have in place right now, at least for the Bay Area, is is handling it very well, and they're ready to handle any surge if needed with this time. A lot of that the media talks about a lot is medical equipment and like specifically masks and the uniforms you guys wear while dealing with this. Is that still a thing in your unit?
So, because we're Santa Clara County, we for the past 2 months we've just been getting a lot of donations from very generous companies and people just from all over the Bay Area. I don't want to say that we're in a shortage or that we're sufficient, but we're at the point we're at the right amount of protection gear that we have PPEs. So yes, we are okay in amount.
Okay. So it sounds like the supply chain is helping you sustain right now versus how it initially looked like in the beginning. So yeah, the power of the people's generosity and the power of the economy trying to shift to handle the supply, it looks like is working well. That's hopefully that also gives comfort for people. Just as a side note, I ordered masks from a company 3 weeks ago, and they haven't shown up because they thought they were only gonna get a couple hundred of orders. They had like 5,000 orders from this small business, and they're like, "We're sorry, your order is gonna probably show up in June." It's like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
the demand is so high, but at the same time, they're also prioritizing their orders to hospitals and like other places that need it before me, and I totally understand that. So it's crazy to hear the supply and demand thing. So that's cool. Thanks, Julius. How about you?
On that note of like PPE and stuff, as far as we're concerned, I have an abundance of it right now. I mean, in terms of the N95, I think I have like 3 boxes personally, and that's between me and my wife because she's sniff as well. Um, I think that also the Bay Area, in terms of the medical system, from what I'm understanding, it's up to par. Like her private sniff is, when it was surging, they were considering becoming a skilled nursing facility for COVID if it had to, come down to that. Yeah, I think medically, unless the virus does something we don't know about, like mutate and like another strain comes around, I don't know. Unless it becomes more lethal, I think we'll be okay. I think if people continue to do what we're doing, and there's been a lot of entrepreneurs locally who've been building masks, and and I think that's a great thing. I've bought from 2 individuals from the South Bay who are making masks already. Spirit of American made. I love it. I think we need to go back to that. But yeah, from what I'm seeing, it's good. But then on the flip side, that situation with my consumer who got turned down by the EMTs, I think that's the flip side of this whole situation is if we do have a surge in the hospitals, I don't know, maybe people might not be able to get into, because I know my guys, that guy, he wasn't able to get, medical service. On the flip side, we had another guy who had a urgent need that went to the ER. He got his treatment and he came home changed. Also, on top of that, coming back into facility, he needed to be quarantined for 14 days, and he had to have his own little commode, which is a little toilet, and one caregiver for that one particular individual, and he had to be quarantined in that room within a house that is quarantined from the rest of the world. So in terms of resources from where I am, I think we're prepared.
All right, thank you for both sharing that. Let's go through a couple other of these questions that were submitted. With all that's going on, especially that the fact that you work, for Jelani's case, it's in the COVID wing, and for Julius, since you work adult care facilities, did you ever second guess working in the healthcare field, or in Julius's case, have you second guessed yourself in being in the field that you're in?
It actually strengthened my resolve to be where I am
Oh, really?
because I feel like I'm providing a need, a service to people who would otherwise wouldn't have that service. had we been, because okay, so here's some background about the developmentally disabled in California. There's a thing called the Lanterman Act, and basically it is a law that is on the books that says that people who are developmentally disabled will be taken care of by the state of California. Because of that, I feel fortunate to serve them, but I also feel like I'm doing a God service, because if you look at other countries, these people would be put to the wayside during a pandemic. Fortunately enough, this is one of the things that's great about America, is that we, will support the downtrodden, the people who are as fortunate. These people are disabled twice, intellectually and physically. I'm providing a service in a country that is awesome, because in a different country they probably would have got thrown in the gutter, because all the resources would have went to all the rich and well off.
Right. Yeah, and that's good because when Jesus saw people who are sick and ill, he's always moved by compassion to help them. And it's good to hear that that's how you're viewing with the facilities that God's placed you in, Julius. Thanks for that. How about you, Jelani?
Um, like in the beginning, when administration turned into COVID, I have to be real. I was really pissed because, like, why are we the only unit? To me, it's a matter of perspective. I think after a while, I was like, it's a matter of perspective of like, am I gonna think this as a victim, or am I gonna do what I'm called to do, and make an impact in this world?
Mm.
Because initially, everyone at work was like, we're risking our lives. We didn't go into nursing thinking that we were gonna get into a pandemic. A lot of my coworkers are pretty pissed too. They're like, not right. They should spread this among other workers who work at the hospital too. But why us? But after a while, as working in the COVID unit, I just saw it as an opportunity, to be the light. Everyone was just filled with anxiety. I think the moment when I was the first one who got picked to take care of the first positive patient, instead of like, seeing myself as like, oh, why me? I know that I'm covered by the blood of Jesus, and I know that I'm gonna come out of that victorious, and that I'm protected, and I have that covering, and I'm gonna be fine, and I'm gonna be successful. And you know what? I got through it. So all because of Jesus.
Right. Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. I like to hearing that you relied on not just on your own strength, but the strength of Jesus. I think a lot of us need that reminder, especially when things are just totally sideways and bad. Because I am weak, he is strong. I forgot where that is in the
Amen.
Bible, but I know that exists. So that is a legit thing that you were sharing. Thank you so much, Jelani. Let me ask one question from me. What is one thing or two things that God has revealed to you about yourself during this whole situation?
I think mine was in regards to the quarantine. So when everything was shut down, churches were shut down, communities were shut down. You can no longer meet with people, and all you had was yourself. It was a moment of, going to use this time in quarantine wisely, or am I gonna waste my time? Like, I'm not hating on anyone who does this or anything like that, but am I gonna waste my time watching Netflix or Hulu? And that's, there's people who do hobbies, catching up on hobbies, but am I gonna use this time wisely by drawing near and close to the Lord in this time? In many ways, when I chose to really meet with God, because honestly, in my work schedule, I gotta admit, before COVID, I was super busy with ministry, life, work, family life, personal life. There are times where sometimes you can put God on the back burner, not necessarily in the back burner, but, kind of putting him not necessarily a priority, but he is in your life. When all that got stripped away, it was, God, I really want to draw close to you in this moment, because this is the only time that I can really utilize this. And it's a blessing in disguise for me, because with all the craziness that's on my plate, immediately remember the time where I fell in love with him again. Reading about his character, like, he's just so almighty, so all powerful, and so loving. Everything that is in his hands is under control. So yeah, I've just been going through that journey of just reading the word and reading it slowly and intimately, and just having my own prayer moments. It's been all powerful. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. How about you, Julius?
Just flexibility, being able to adjust to scenarios as they arise. And it made me realize a lot of things that I love in my normal life and love in my life that I am right now. I love martial arts. I love going to church and, being with God's people. But in some regard, like we do like Bible study now, like weekly, right, Lou, on Zoom. So, and before this, I've been asking everybody to do virtual Bible study just because we all live in different cities. But, and to some extent, it kind of brought us closer together. It showed me that I can't be too stuck on what I think is right in the moment. 6 months ago, life was totally different. Not holding on to a current situation too hard. I could say, are you for me or the enemy? And he goes, neither. I'm for the Lord of hosts. I'm doing my thing and you're a part of my plan. In the beginning, when I seen all of this play out, I wasn't fighting against it because I realized a long time ago that, whatever comes in life is God's will. And the more you fight against it, the more you're going against his will, going against what he wants for you in your life. And just to embrace the situation. And what I would used to say a lot before is embrace the grind. That there's a passage that I used to quote a lot. Endure hardship. That one from Timothy, Second Timothy, just changing, enduring, embracing, kind of like cementing me more into who I am in a way. Uh, I don't know.
2 Timothy 2, verses 3 to 4. By the power of the internet, suffer hardship with me as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No soldier in active service entangles himself in the affairs of everyday life so that he may please the one who enlisted him as a soldier. Okay, I'm going to talk about something that's, for some of the people listening to this, is more of a charismatic Pentecostal thing. If you don't believe in that stuff, that's okay. We could discuss that in a different podcast. I was at Bethel and I was going there for a conference, and someone prayed over me and prophesied it over me. It's like, you have something you left in the shelf, and you left it there, and you left it there because you never thought you would ever get back to it. God's telling you it's not forgotten. You can get back to it soon. And lo and behold, shelter in place happened. And the thing that I really wanted to do was to record podcasts and like find a outlet for my thoughts and my understanding of the Lord through devotions. God kind of gently pushed me in this direction when my church couldn't meet anymore physically. It's like, okay, how do we take care of our members? It's like my pastor's like, I'll write stuff, and I said, I'll do video stuff. As I learned from Julius, when you decide to do something, you go all the way in. So I spent all my stimulus money on microphone, mixer, a nice camera. I'm still spending more money. Oh my gosh, I'm spending so much money on this stuff, but it's worth it. And it's enriching me and it's enriching other people who are listening to this. Yeah, and God's good. He's allowing me to outlet something that I didn't have a chance to before because of my commuting time. So people are saying that they're freed up to do less things. I'm like, my schedule's so crammed still. In a good way though. Like doing things for the Lord is the best thing I've always asked. Like if we can do anything for you, Lord, I'll just do it. And he's giving me the tools and the ability at this time and the actual time to do it. It's amazing. All right, any final thoughts from both of you before we close up?
Just thank you for having the opportunity to have me come on this. I don't get a lot of opportunity to speak about what I'm experiencing in my work. So thank you for having that. Let me have that opportunity to come on here.
All right. Thank you, Jelanie. How about you, Julius?
This is an opportunity, like you said, to seek God and see what he's trying to say to you in your life. This is a really bad quote, but never waste a bad situation. God is a God of redemption. There's a scripture that says he will return the years that the locusts have eaten. Even though there's a lot of people out there who want to go back to normal life, God will open a door to another way. We just have to trust him. We have to see him as sovereign, and we have to see also where we fit into it. We got to see what's God's will for us in our personal lives, in the situation that we're in. What opportunities is God opening? What opportunities is God closing? Ask God for discernment so that you could figure out God, what are you telling me in this situation? Are you closing a door? Or are you opening a door? Or is this a situation where you just want me to wait? Everybody's personal situation is very different from one to another, but we all have the Lord in common. And God's will for all of us is very similar, but oftentimes it comes out very different.
Cool, Julius. Thank you so much. Last thing, this is your chance to promote something that you're involved in, regardless if it's your church or a business or some nonprofit, whatever it is. I'll start with you, Julius. Anything you want to promote from your end?
Well, I kind of got a side gig. I'm doing video production, but it's kind of on hold now because I can't really go and see people and do videos for them. If anybody's interested in me doing video editing or something like that, or video consultation on, oh, what kind of gear they want or whatever, I'm open to that. You can send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. I want to promote everybody to find God's will in their life. That's, I think, is what I really want to promote. And
Amen.
don't stress out. Don't fret. God told us not to be fearful.
Yeah, he always says, "Fear not," and then he always
Yeah.
adds his affirmation, positive reinforcement into what he's gonna do. So, amen. All right, how about you, Jelani? Anything you want to promote?
I don't really have a side gig, but I always want to promote my church. Like I mentioned earlier, we are called the Cornerstone SJ. We're currently not meeting right now because of shelter in place, but we do have our online services on our YouTube channel. It's titled the Cornerstone SJ. We also have our Facebook. You can also like us there. Me being part of the youth, or if any high schoolers or any middle schoolers are looking for any type of youth group, we have our meetings every other Friday. We do have our Instagram page as well as our private Facebook page. It's called the Forge.sj. So any youth between 12 to 18 are more welcome to join us.
Thanks, Jelani. And for those who are trying to figure out, Cornerstone SJ is in San Jose. You could also look them up on YouTube and see their sermons if you ever want to just get a taste of what their senior pastor, his name's Pastor Paul, sounds like and what he's about. He is legit, and I'm excited to see their church grow even more. All right, very good. We have completed another podcast. Thank you all so much. Once again, Jelani, Julius, thank you so much for your time. And for you those listening, stay tuned for next time. I'll be talking about businesses involved with COVID-19 with the next set of guests. All right, stay tuned. See you all next time. Bye bye.